Alright, we're starting stream. Lauren, you are live. You are live.
Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the second live dive of today. It's Lauren down here at 16.2 meters. We have a handsome Hungarian Emil on camera and my boy Patrick on the surface. Now, I have a surprise for you. Let me see, just over here, we have a turtle. Emil is going to take us to the turtle. It's a little hawksbill. Pat, you get that database up and let's see who it is.
Yes, welcome everybody watching along. We hope you're having a great day, and what an awesome way to start this dive. Now, Lauren did prompt me to open a database. What she was talking about is here on this iPad I have, we have a photo database of the scutes or the scales that sit on the side of the turtle's face. Now, these are like a unique fingerprint that we can use to identify this turtle to the specific individual that it is.
So you should have a view now of this turtle's bottom. It's a very small juvenile hawksbill, and right now it is kind of hanging upside down, feeding on most likely sponges. So as Pat mentioned, you can identify an individual turtle by the scales on the side of the face. So we obviously do not want to disturb it from feeding, but once Emil is able to get a visual on the side of the face, he will. It does look like it could potentially maybe be patched, but we cannot confirm until we see the side of the face. So it's definitely a juvenile, I can tell you that. So therefore we're not able to say if it is a boy or a girl. It is completely unfazed by our presence here. You get a good view there, Pat?
Yes, and I can confirm that this one is Patch.
Yeah, so Patch is a easily recognizable individual because it is a juvenile, it's so small. It has quite a unique little pattern on the left side, so it's worth noting that the left side and the right side of a turtle is not the same. They will differ, but the patterns do remain the same throughout their lifetime. That's why we are able to run this program, and you can see at the bottom of the shell there's a patch. So this is probably some coralline algae or just some growth that is on the back of the shell. So that's how I kind of move ahead of confirmation that it is patch. So please do send in your questions, especially about turtles, and I will do my best to answer them.
We do actually have one here from Betty, and Betty's asking whether the green on the turtle is algae or its natural coloration.
What? Sorry, Pat?
The green on the turtle, whether it's its natural coloration or whether it's algae.
Everything you are seeing about this turtle is its natural coloration. So obviously on the head and the flippers, they're covered in scales. We often refer to them as scutes. And on the shell, this is the natural coloration of the shell. Now, we did tell you that it's a hawksbill, which is the most common species around here. And they have such a unique and beautiful pattern on their shell that it's often used in the jewellery trade. So it is used to make beautiful jewellery, and this is called tortoise shell. So many people who really buy this jewellery are not 100% aware that it comes from the hawksbill sea turtle. So nothing you are looking at is algae, it's all its natural coloration.
And while we're on the subject of colour, we actually have another question here from Big Tex. And he wants to know, do turtles see in colour or black and white? Now, I do know that turtles do see in colour. And apparently they can actually see more colours than what we can see.
Yeah, turtles have really good vision. So underwater they can see much better than we can for sure. And on land, sometimes they are slightly short-sighted, but still have great vision on land. Because the female turtles will come on land to lay their eggs. So yes, in both elements, in both realms, they have excellent vision. But good question.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Is there any other turtle questions there, Pat?
Not currently, but there is a bit of a crossover day, so Safari Live is finishing a little bit late, so I'm sure we'll get some more coming in when more people are watching along.
Not a problem. I'm more than happy to share my knowledge about turtles with you. So you can see it's quite a cumbersome and heavy body design. Oh, it's going for more sponges. They aren't the most dynamic of swimmers. They do have this very heavy shell and flippers that do look slightly awkward, but they are more streamlined than you would think they are. The front flippers are used for power to give the speed for the animal, and they can go a lot faster than you would think, especially when they feel threatened or they need to escape. And the back flippers, they act like a rudder, so they kind of take over the steering and they will be used for direction. So it's a very unique body design, and the reason I knew straight away that it was a hawksbill is because of this pointy overbite of a beak. So maybe if Patch does stop swimming, if you can get a good close-up of the beak, and that it's named after the hawk, the bird. A lot of other turtles will have a much flatter beak, which is why I knew it was a hawksbill.
Now, we have a question from Lady Starfire, and she is asking, oh, that is a great footage there of it taking a big chomp out of its favourite food, the sponge. Now, Lady Starfire was asking whether Patch is a boy or a girl, but we do not know.
We do not know because Patch is a juvenile. Now, we know it's a juvenile by the size of its carapace. So the carapace is just another fancy word for the top shell. So from the top of the carapace to the bottom of the carapace, it's definitely less than 60 centimeters. So if it's less, we generally say that it's not sexually mature yet, and it's a juvenile. So when they're a juvenile, it's impossible to determine the sex. But once they reach above 60 centimeters in carapace length, then if there is not a tail in between the back flippers, we can safely say it's a female. But if there was a big long tail in between those back flippers there, then we would know that it was a male. So unfortunately, Patch is too young. We are unable to determine the sex.
And we can really see how much of a juvenile it is by its failed attempts there. We saw it trying to pick the sponge off a few times, but its jaws just weren't quite strong enough. But we can see that this must be a bit of sponge that Patch must really like, or other turtles must really like, because there's quite a big depression where we can see that there's been a bit of tissue taken away. So this must be a good... Oh, here he goes again. Is he going to get it? Oh, he got a little bit.
Yeah,
so this is wonderful.
Hawksbills are spongivores, and basically they just love eating sponges. Now, they're actually really important to the ecosystem in that way, because sponges, if they were allowed to, could actually suffocate and grow all over the corals on the reef. So there is animals that do feed on the sponges for a reason, and that's to keep them under control. So in fact, hawksbill turtles, one individual can actually eat 1,000 pounds of sponges per year? Now, Pat, you can definitely do that conversion for me.
About 450 kilograms.
Yeah, so that is a lot of sponges, and that's how much they consume per year. So this aids in coral growth.
Yes, everything plays its role in its ecosystem, including little Patch here, just doing his part by eating all of these sponges up. And we have actually quite an interesting question. I don't know the answer to this one, so I'm going to have to throw this one down to you, Lauren. James wants to know whether sea turtles, or hawksbills more specifically, make any vocalizations.
No, they don't. They don't make any noises. Have rescued a lot of turtles, predominantly olive ridleys, but I have rescued some hawksbills and queens as well. And even when you are removing them from the water, which has been necessary in these circumstances, they do not make any noise. And underwater, they don't either.
Thank you. And we do have another question here coming from Yvonne. And she's asking whether sea turtles will occupy the same area at the same time.
So do you mean a group of turtles?
Well, the question says, will more than one turtle occupy the same area at the same time?
Well, that's quite a good question. So yes, they will, in terms of a home reef. So the reef that we are on right now is just outside of Don Foster's, and it's called Casarina Point. So it's actually a very big reef which extends right along the island. But turtles will sort of claim a reef and they will stay there, and that will be their foraging ground. They will leave when it comes to mating. Many turtles are here on this reef, but they are completely solitary animals. They do not interact with one another. And if a turtle was to come across another turtle on the reef, they would either completely ignore each other or a little bit of a fight would break out. So they are territorial in that respect.
Very good. And I'm just going to hound you with the questions, Lauren, because I know that you love your turtles and your turtle facts. So we have another one from your good friend Alau, and he wants to know, why do sea turtles live alone? Do they have a family, or do they just live solitarily forever?
Great question. Yeah, they're solitary, so they do live alone. They don't interact. So when the sea turtle is ready to mate, which for a hawksbill is normally around 20 to 25 years of age, and they will mate every 2 to 3 years. So when they are ready for that, they will leave the reef and they will go into slightly deeper waters, more pelagic, so more into the open ocean, where they will mate with a male. Now, the funny thing about turtles is that they are actually known to be polygynandrous. Now, a better word for that is promiscuous. So the female turtle will actually mate with many males, not just one, and she is able to store the sperm in separate oviducts inside her body, and she is able to choose which sperm to use to fertilize her eggs. So she will... Patch just came to say hello to you all. Did you see that?
Yeah, that was really great, and it kind of answers a question here from Cindy from Tennessee, because she wanted to know whether the turtle is scared of it or whether it's easy to keep up with it. And that is your answer right there. It does not care. It comes up and even has a look and says, "G'day."
Well, Emil is holding the camera, and it does have quite a big lens, which is quite reflective underwater. I can actually see myself, so I'm sure that Patch could probably see itself in the lens, and it came to investigate. How funny is that?
That is
so as
great.
I was saying, yes, turtles are promiscuous. They will mate with many different males, but this is the only time that they interact with another. Once they have mated, the female will leave, and she most likely will never see that male again. She will continue on her journey to get ready to lay the eggs on the beach. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, you're doing great, Lauren, taking all of these questions and answering them with ease. So we did have another last turtle question here. Let me find it. Sorry, it was a good one. So Craig wants to know, will the turtle swallow a lot of water whilst diving and feeding? And yes, and they have a way also to deal with it. So if you've ever seen a sea turtle on land, it will look like they're crying, and they are not actually crying, they're not in pain. They just have special ducts in their eyes that allow them to excrete salt to deal with this salt build-up from being in the salt water all the time.
Yeah, so Patch has actually gone up to the surface to breathe, because even though we see turtles underwater, they are reptiles, and they do breathe air. They have lungs, so they hold their breath and come down deep onto the reef, but they always need to go up to the surface to take some oxygen. So I am just having a look to see where he or she went, but I can't see her. Can you see her, Emil? No. So maybe we have lost Pat, but I am so happy to answer any turtle questions that you may have. We do have a cowfish up here, so let's see if we can go find that cowfish.
Great. So cowfish are a bit, not a rare sight on the reef, but they're always a good sight to see. They're quite funny, odd-shaped little critters. And a big shout out to Summer, who's watching along today. We haven't seen her popping up on the chats before, so welcome, and we hope you're enjoying this dive.
I wonder where this cowfish went. We did have it in view, but it has just disappeared. So that was a great sighting of Pat, and it was quite a deep one. We did see her at 16 meters, so I'm at 11 meters now. So we're just going to go a little bit shallower so I can save my air. And Emil has seen something.
Oh, what has Emil the Eagle Eye spotted this time?
Oh, I think it's a filefish.
Ah, yes.
So right ahead we have white spotted filefish. Now I am crazy about these. Oh, one of them just turned on its white spot, so there you go. I don't need to explain why it's called the white spotted filefish. And you can see them just using their dorsal and anal fins. They really rarely move those tail fins. And there is a pair of them. They seem to be traveling together. Now these ones are pretty big. I would say between 60 to 70 centimeters.
Wow, that is quite a large filefish.
Yeah, they're really big. Like, one of them is much bigger than the other, which is interesting. And their coloration is just incredibly beautiful. So these filefish are quite closely related to the triggerfish. And they can erect that spine on the top of their head. Now, commonly triggerfish use this spine to lock them in crevices in the reef, or they can actually use it as a warning sign to tell predators, or even humans, to go away. The filefish don't seem to use them in that respect, but they can use it to lock themselves in a crevice at night to protect themselves from potential predators. These guys are just so cool. Yeah,
they are. And just their shape and the way they're put together is very strange. We can see they've got a very flat disc-like body, and their anal fin and dorsal fin are towards the rear of their body. Now this gives them a really flattened profile, but also the top dorsal and anal fin, or the top and bottom fin, undulate, and this allows them to move on their sides, so they can really weave in under any cracks that they may need to get to either feed or escape predators. So it is quite an evolutionary advantage for them. And we can see that mouth is also elongated, which makes it a lot easier for them to feed in these hard to reach areas where other animals may not be able to get, and therefore there's quite a bit of food there for them.
Yeah, you can see they do have quite strong jaws with strong teeth, so they are known to crush things, especially crustaceans and shellfish, with those teeth. It's not quite as big as a triggerfish, but they definitely have that crushing power. I just love these. Oh, he's eating a vase sponge.
Oh, that's awesome. Are they both going in for a feed now?
Yeah, so they are omnivores, which just means that they feed on a huge variety and a huge selection of food. And right now, this damselfish is telling them to go away from the vase sponge.
And we can see that that vase sponge has actually got quite a white patch there where they were feeding, and this is just like before with Patch, how we saw it feeding on an already eaten patch. So I think this must just be because they stick to what they know and go back to their feeding area. And now we have a question from Lara Moore. She wants to know what the fin motion is that they're using, and that is an undulating fin motion. That is also Lauren's favourite word, undulating.
Yes. Unfortunately, it is one of the words that I'm not too keen on, but it is used a lot in the marine world, and it does describe that motion of the fins of the filefish. So thank you for that question. So I failed to mention earlier because I got so excited that Patch was behind me. But normally we dive to the right of Don Foster's Casuarina Point, but today me and Emil went to the left. So it's an area of reef that I'm not too familiar with myself, so it is quite exciting to be somewhere different. But the visibility today is also not good, and it'll just be a seasonal thing, but it means we can't see too far ahead in front of us. But that doesn't matter, we're still going to have an awesome dive, and I am still on the lookout for that moray eel. I will never give up. So many of you have mentioned that you needed your turtle fix. It's been a while since you've seen turtles, so we delivered that for you, and I'm still determined to get this eel. So we're just going to dive this way, in between the coral rocks. There's a little channel, and let's see what we can find.
Yes, fingers crossed for you that you get your eel. I think we've said it about every dive for the last week that we're going to see a moray eel, but they have eluded us every single time.
Yes, the last time I came to the left, I did find a moray, so Emil is my good luck charm. Let's see what we can do. Now it is part of the same reef when we say the right and the left. That is on Casuarina Point, but it's just different areas of it. And Emil has a grouper up ahead. Let me just get closer before I identify it.
Yes, so we do have a bit of, it's a bit tricky to identify between a tiger grouper and a yellowfin grouper. Now, I can't say confidently from looking at this which one it is because I can't see the fin in great detail.
I don't see any yellowfin. This could potentially be a tiger grouper, but hopefully it comes a little bit closer towards us.
We can see that transparent yellow around the edge of the fin grouper.
Alrighty, and it is just opening its mouth and showing us those sharp teeth that it's got. And it's not trying to threaten us at all, it is just hanging out to be clean. So I can see lots of small fish around it, hoping to meet their next client.
Yeah, there was a couple of little cleaner gobies in and around its mouth then.
Oh, it's disappeared. It doesn't want to take a shower in front of us. So we will continue on our way.
We can see that this part of the reef is quite complex as well. There's a lot of overhangs and outcrops. And this complex topography is really, it's really textbook eel territory.
Sorry to interrupt you, Pat. Can I just get your volume turned up? Unfortunately, I can't hear you very well.
Is that any better, Lauren?
Much better.
And actually turn it up. I'm just moving closer to the microphone, so I'm sorry.
For that. Yeah, that makes a world of difference to me down here.
Great.
So yeah, I think you were mentioning the topography on this side is just so different. Even though it's on the same stretch of reef, I would say this side is a lot more complex than the other side. So it's also fun for me to dive I think I see a diadema urchin down here. Yes, Emil has spotted it as well. So let's take a look at that urchin that is hiding out in the crack. Are you able to see that?
Yes, so those long spines coming out there, that is an urchin.
Yes, and urchins are echinoderms. So they are, believe it or not, related to starfish or sea stars and sand dollars. And you can't actually see the animal. All we have a visual of right now is those long, sharp spines. But they are actually attached to a globular test. And the test is the main part of the animal. So you do often find them like that, just hiding out in the cracks of the reef, which is why so many people get injuries from them, because they may be spit on some rock or some coral, and they don't realise there's an urchin hiding inside.
And urchin spines are notoriously hard to remove once they're in as well.
I can imagine it does look painful. It's never happened to me. But urchin is actually an old word for hedgehog. So I'm sure I don't need to clarify why they get that. But obviously these spines around that globular body is where the name hedgehog comes from. Now they don't look it, but urchins are an incredibly important keystone species. They are actually herbivores, and they're important herbivores. They do graze quite heavily on algae, and that was discovered in Jamaica, where a disease outbreak killed almost all of an important species of urchin called diadema. Some populations were reduced to 7%, from 100 to 7. So what this meant for the reefs in Jamaica was that no animal was there to control the algae. So the algae just completely overgrew on all the reefs and smothered the coral. So you wouldn't believe it, but these urchins are really important.
Yes, everything in an ecosystem always plays its part, and when the balance of an ecosystem is thrown out, that's when things can get really bad. Just like with that example of less sea urchins, more algae, less corals. So everything always has an impact on something else in the region.
Neil, let's take a look at this giant anemone.
All right. Well, while we're heading over to that,
Might be inside of it.
Lauren, can you please give us an air check? We've got a good dive buddy, Patty, asking for your air.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I'm on 100 bar. I did start deep in all that excitement with Patch, so just in here we have a giant anemone. Now you can see, oh, there's a Christmas tree worm right beside it. There's quite a lot of things all happening here. So this big colony of coral is a boulder star coral in the grouping Montastria, and buried in it is Christmas tree worms, which we'll come back to, and right at the side of it is this giant anemone. Now this is a really big one, and it's obviously seeking refuge in the crack in the coral, and you can see, all we can see is these tentacles with those bulbous ends which are actually filled with gas. And anemones, they're quite difficult to say. They are quite a painful sting. They do contain nematosis, which will deliver some venom. Now it wouldn't be enough to kill a human being, but it would be enough to paralyze or kill very small fish. So I'm not sure if there's any little shrimps or fish living inside it, because Emil is the closest. Can you see any, Pat?
No, I cannot, but what I can see is, so just down a little bit, Emil, if you move the camera downwards. Yes, so right there, it's a bit hard to see, but we can see the mouth of the anemone. So that, yes, we get a very good view now. Right in the middle of that bunch of tentacles, that is the mouth. And so that's where all of the food that they catch with the tentacles get fed down to. And now this top side is called the oral surface. So the oral surface of an anemone is made up of tentacles and the mouth, and then below the mouth is a big digestive cavity where they can digest all of their food, and also it acts as a bit of a hold fast to keep them in place where they are.
Yeah, so normally they can stay in that place using the food that Pat mentioned for a really long time, but say the area just became not easy for them to live anymore, they can sort of unstick themselves using this food from the area that they're in and try to move to a new location. So they can't actively swim, so it would just be a case of them floating in the water column to find a new location where they can settle on and attach. Now there is around 1,000 species of anemones, so there's a lot more than you would think, but being related to jellyfish means they're also related next to each other. They don't look very much related, but they are. They're in for having a very important symbiotic relationship with algae. So each little animal, which I'm sure Emil can show you, which is one of those little circles of the coral, that's an individual animal, will host a bit of algae. Now this algae is called zooxanthellae, which is a bit of a long name to say. We can just call it algae. So each animal will host a bit of algae, and together they will have a symbiotic relationship. So many people don't know that anemones can also have a symbiotic relationship with algae. And during the coral bleaching of 2016, it was a mass bleaching throughout the world. And a lot of corals became so stressed due to the high temperatures, they actually expelled this algae and turned white. Now, anemones can also do the same. They can expel the algae, and a lot of anemones during this time turned pure white, which was a very strange thing to see. But I think it's great that Emil was able to show you a coral and an anemone right next to each other. Thank you, Emil.
Yeah, and it would have been great if this coral had its polyps extended, because if so, then you can really start to see the similarities between corals and anemones, because the little polyps that they will actually, they're not extended right now, which is why they have that wart-like appearance, but when they are extended, it is just like thousands of tiny little anemones coming out of it. So that's when you can really get a feel for, well, just like this little coral here. So we can see all of those little furry things with tentacles. They are the coral polyps, and they do resemble a little anemone. And this is great footage. Well done, Emil.
Yeah, so like Pat was saying, they would extend their tentacles as a method of feeding. So when they have their tentacles extended, they're trying to capture little bits of food in the water column. Now when they're not extended, like the previous coral, that means that they're just getting food from the algae I was talking about. So that algae will photosynthesize and give the food to the coral. But obviously, when the sun goes down, there's no sun anymore, so the algae cannot do that, which is why they would extend their tentacles and feed in that way.
And that answers Summer's question partially, asking what do they feed on. So yes, there was that part where they feed on the energy produced by the symbiotic algae that lives within it, but they also do filter out plankton from the water. So plankton is a collective term for any organism, living organism in the water that isn't strong enough to fight the current, and so just drifts within the current. And we're getting another great view of more coral polyps right now. So we can really see that structure of the 8 tentacles and the mouth in the middle. And they do use nematosis to capture their prey, and also in defense. So what a nematosis is a cell that is toxic and is kind of like a harpoon that's spring-loaded. So it will, once it comes into contact with prey or a predator, it will release these stinging cells, by like a harpoon kind of spring-loaded mechanism. It will shoot into them and it will affect the organism.
Yeah, so they do estimate there is approximately about 65 different species of hard coral in the Caribbean region. So hard coral is just termed so because each polyp, each animal, is inside a skeleton, and this skeleton is made from calcium carbonate. So what you just saw there on that big coral, you were actually looking at the hard skeleton. The animals are tucked safely inside.
Now we have a bit of an interesting question from Linda, and Linda was asking whether we could use infrared down here. Now we have actually considered this during our time here, but it would be too hard to implement. It would not work underwater, unfortunately.
Interesting question though.
Yes.
Now we have came a lot shallower. I'm not sure if you're able to tell from the changes in the reef, but it does look a lot shallower. It looks a lot different, sorry, once you are shallower. Now we do have a damselfish here guarding an egg patch. Now we've never really been able to capture this on camera. Emil, just down here. Emil, the egg patch is just here. Yeah. Because we were never able to get too close because we didn't want to disturb the animals or the eggs. But now that we have the famous zoom, Emil will be able to get a lot closer to these eggs without disturbing the animals. So are you able to see that Sergeant Major there?
Yeah, most definitely. So it's just hanging about above, that stripy fish hanging about above that purple patch, and that purple patch is the eggs that Lauren was referring to. Now you will see quite often the males floating above this patch, and they will rub against it with their body. Now this does a couple of things. Firstly, it clears any debris from the eggs, so there's nothing there that can harm them. And it also oxygenates the eggs as well. So it's quite a labourful task on this poor male, but he does it well, and he will do this for about 6 days before the eggs start to hatch. So this male will defend it vigorously.
I can see a squid over here, Emil. It just seems... Oh, there's many. I thought it was just one. There's actually a lot of squid here. All of these dives seem to be ending in squid-tastic endings. So these squid are at about 6 meters. They're quite shallow, and they seem to just be doing their usual of swimming along and flashing those amazing colours. Are you getting a good view of that?
Yeah, we can see the squid, but as they can change their colours quite well, it is very well camouflaged into the water. So I'm not surprised that you saw one without seeing the others first.
Yes, I can see the others over here. So there's some here and some here, Emil. Maybe we should go and visit the others. So there is a group of them. And normally when you do see them at these depths in the reef, they are actually coming together to mate. So let me just take a look around. Like Pat mentioned, they are camouflaged, and we might have lost them. Can you see them, Emil? No.
Yeah, I can't.
They potentially swam off, which was such a shame because normally they're really flamboyant and they do their little squid dance for us. But I think we have possibly lost them, which is a shame. But at least you got to see them. That's
right. And yes, they are the masters of camouflage. They have special cells called chromatophores. And these chromatophores are just essentially just pigments surrounded by muscle. And when the muscle contracts or expands, the pigments change shape and orientation, and therefore they reflect light differently at different colours. So all they need to do is tense these muscle fibres, and they can change colour that quickly. Now, Lauren, you have been down 40 minutes or so now. Can you please give us an air check?
I am on 70 bars, so I still have around 20 bars left with you. And as I mentioned, we have came a lot shallower, which means I won't use my air so fast, and I always love looking around the shallows. You literally never know what you're going to see. And it also means I have 20 bar left with you to find this moray eel.
Yes, fingers crossed for you. And as she is coming a little bit shallower on the left-hand side, I did see a green turtle here yesterday. Now, we haven't seen a green turtle here on diveLIVE. In fact, that was the first green turtle we've seen here in Grand Cayman so far. So fingers crossed, it is still hanging around this shallower area on the left-hand side.
Well, we do have a porcupine fish up ahead, so we're going to go and say hello. I'm not sure what... Yep, it's a porcupine fish. So
yes,
it's just hanging out in the water column there, looking clumsy as ever. Hopefully you can get a good view of that, because it's just turned to face the camera. Oh, I thought it had a tail bitten off. It was just hiding its tail. So yeah, this is a younger porcupine fish. It's much smaller. I would say this one is only about 30 centimeters, which is probably just over 10 inches. And it's looking very shy at the camera. So these animals are able to inflate by rapidly pumping water into their stomach. And they do have spines against their body, which will stand on end when they inflate. So if that's not already enough to deter a predator, they do actually have a toxin in their tissues. Now this toxin is very, very, very strong, and it does accumulate in their organs, such as their ovaries and their livers. Now, they don't produce this toxin. It does come from bacteria in the food that they eat. Now, I was reading that they did an experiment on some of these porcupine fish and controlled what they actually eat, and if they did not contain this bacteria, the porcupine fish did not have the toxin in their flesh. So it is completely controlled by what they eat.
Well, that's really fascinating. Now, Lauren, I know that you know the answer to this question. Kalina is asking, isn't a porcupine fish a puffer fish?
They generally collectively get grouped together with puffer fish because they do inflate, they do puff up, but it is slightly different. Porcupine fish are termed diodontides, and puffer fish are tetrodontides, I believe. So they are different, but generally you can say that this is a porcupine puffer fish.
Thank you, Lauren. Now we have a question here. No, sorry. No, we do not. Sorry about that.
No worries. I will be wrapping up the dive shortly. So if you do have any questions, you can send them through now and I'll try and answer them for you before we end the dive. Have you still got a good view on this porcupine fish? We
did. It was looking at us very shyly from behind the rocks, but it looks like it has... Oh, no. Yeah, we've got a good view of its bum right now.
Well, I did mention that this group is the diodontidae. Now, that just means like two teeth. So if it is facing us head on, I am not able to see right now. Emil is getting in there. You should be able to see that it has a really strong fused tooth on the top and one on the bottom. So they have got quite powerful teeth, and they do not eat other fish. They forage for normally shellfish, and that's why their jaws and teeth need to be quite strong. Now, sometimes porcupine fish will inflate, mostly when they're in danger or they're scared. But actually, it's quite energetically costly for them to do this. So even though they're quite protected from predators when they inflate, when they deflate, it does become a problem. It takes a long time for them to deflate. They're not always able to get rid of all that excess water, and their metabolism doesn't return to normal until 5.6 hours later. So a tired fish is a vulnerable fish, and generally they can get injured or even eaten when they're actually in the deflation stages. And an adult porcupine's main predators would be sharks and killer whales. But when they're juvenile, they are actually preyed upon by tunas, dolphins, and even zebra mantis shrimps.
Yes, that is incredible footage of this right now. Seeing it there tucked away, hiding away under that little crevice there, and we can really see the textures of its skin, and we've got a good view of its operculum too, which is its gill covering. Now you can see that that's constantly passing water over and out, so that's right behind where that opening is where their gills would be. And what the gills are doing is they're essentially filtering out oxygen from the water. So water has dissolved oxygen amongst it, and this is what the fish are hoping to get when they pass it over their gills. That is why if there is low concentrations of dissolved oxygen in the water, fish will become lethargic and quite possibly even suffocate or die.
Yep, so this particular fish is able to puff itself up, like I mentioned, and it has some adaptations to doing so. So it doesn't have a pelvis, and it actually lacks some ribs. So that means it can blow up without breaking any bones. And its skin is specially adapted to stretch. So it is made from collagen fibers that do stretch up to 40%. So they are ready to just balloon at any point. And their stomachs have actually adapted to blow them up and actually reduce the digestive function in some of the species. So that's how important it is to evade predators. So I am on 50 bar, which means we are at the end of the dive. So I will do my safety stop and I will go up to the surface. So I just wanted to say thank you for joining me on this dive, and we will see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. Grand Cayman time. So goodbye for now.
Thank you, diveLIVE family. We hope to see you down diving with us tomorrow, 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. Grand Cayman time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are in the world.